I know we've got a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience, and I want to appeal to you, but I also want to appeal to all of you, because what I'm going to talk about is not just something that I learned in my journey, but it's something that it really is powerful because it applies to all aspects of our lives. Let me ask you first, how many of you would say that your entrepreneurial journey has been filled with joy, lots of ups? Just raise your hand. Yes, lots of ups. Okay. How about lots of downs, challenges, dark? Same hands, that's interesting. How many of you would say it's kind of been flatlined? How many of you would say it's just been real steady, real predictable? I'd call you delusional. One of the first big activities that Carol and I had in our journey was our first big webinar. We were excited to do a webinar. We'd put together some training for women. That's our area of expertise. And this training we put together was going to bring women to their thankful knees. They were going to be so happy to have it, and we were excited to share it. So as we waited for them to show up in droves, we kind of looked at each other and we were ready. And webinar time came, and no one signed on. Not a single person, not even my mom. And so we looked at each other and we kind of shrugged, and we giggled our way through recording it anyway. And that was certainly disappointing. Humor helped, but there are those dark times that we have as entrepreneurs that we get stuck in. I notice that these dark times have a certain pattern and predictability to them, because as I look back on the ups and downs that I've had, and you've had too, and whether it's an entrepreneurial experience or a personal experience, those ups and downs are almost predictable. My message to myself ended up being about it being not a failure, but a failure and a recovery, and a failure and a recovery and a predictability. And this predictability is my huge aha, because with predictability comes hope. So let me tell you what I learned. These ups and downs weren't this circular thing where you learned something, you came back to where you started. And they weren't this downhill trek where it's, oh my God, we're going downhill, we're going to fail, and we're never going to get out of it. But it felt like that at the time. And I noticed that it was really this cyclical thing that slowly moved forward. And it still had, in the big view, it still had a level of productivity. We beat ourselves up when we're in the middle of it, and we're the last ones to recognize it. But when we do recognize it, we can find a way out of it. The aha was its application, the way it came from my background. I had been teaching clients, coaching clients, consulting clients for years about something called the S-curve, or the growth curve, or the change cycle, whatever you want to call it. But it comes from everything that's alive. It applies to anything organic, whether that organic thing be a life, a team, a career, a department, a small business, the roses in your garden, who spring forth in the spring, grow consistently throughout the summer, fade away a little bit in the fall, and then die out in winter. It occurred to me, my startup was really the same way. It was a living thing. So let me share with you that curve and the characteristics of it. It starts off with a steady state. It starts off with something kind of basic, and that I'm going to say is productivity, whatever that looks like. Maybe that's the growth in the summer. And like the growth in the summer, we don't want it to come to an end, right? Our productivity in our businesses has those spurts that we would like to have happen forever, but unfortunately, they just don't. Like summer, they come to an end, and so when that end occurs, it kind of fades off like fall and then dies. It's all going to be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end. Have you heard of that? Those dark phases where we go into a hibernation really have a productivity purpose of their own. Whether it be slowing down to learn, whether it be a time of reflection, whether it be seeing your income go downhill and you're thinking what's going on, it really still serves a purpose. And that purpose in itself has some sort of productivity to it. We just don't see that when we're in the middle of it. We kind of feel like it's, oh, uh-oh. this really stinks and it feels dark. That's what I call the trouble with the curve. Because it's not really trouble, it's actually something that shows us new life. So that new life looks like the spring coming forth. And as a friend of mine says, sometimes you have to go slow in order to go fast. Kind of like the roses banking their nutrients underground so that they can bud forth in the springtime. We do the same thing. And when we're in the middle of those cycles, it really helps to know that it has a purpose. So let me tell you a couple of the things that I've learned from those cycles. The first one is a decision-making tool, really. And it's what I call a forcing function. When I'm in those dark periods, when I feel like I'm in the trouble of the curve, I find ways to move myself forward. Because although you can't avoid the downs with the curve, you can get through them more quickly. Forcing functions work really well for me. For example, my last book, I was kind of stuck in the middle of, and I wasn't really writing much. But somebody had asked me, Katie, in October, will you come and do a book signing for us? And I thought, well, I guess I have to have a book to do that. And, well, dang, I said, sure, I will. Suddenly, I had to get that book done. That was a forcing function. It's as if your activity or your chore is to get up on your roof, and so you put the ladder up on the side of the house, and you think, I got to get up on that roof. So you throw your car keys up on the roof. And now you have to climb that ladder, right? Forcing functions have worked really well for us in our business in order to move ourselves along. You just make yourself do it. The second lesson learned is that mindset about the trouble with the curve. Because when you know that you're in the midst of it and can recognize it, it brings to you, as I said before, predictability. When you know that it's just a slow downswing or it's something that feels dark that you can dig deep and get yourself out of, you have some hope. That brings you energy and that moves you forward. So the trouble with the curve really is not so much trouble with the curve. It's the power of the curve, and it's knowing what's coming next, and it's riding that curve. It's all going to be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, you just have some work to do. Thank you. Thank you.